Welcome to today's talk session. My name is Deidre Moss, and I am the host of Can We Talk? I'm an educator, motivator, and a talk connoisseur. In our session today, we will focus on Bahamian independence, which is coming up shortly. Well, it's recognized on July 10th. And so in our session today, we will focus on Bahamian independence and preserving the music culture. So at this time, I will pass the virtual mic to my guest so that he can introduce himself.
Good day, Bahamas. Good day, everyone. How is everyone doing today? My name is Shaad Collie. I'm the leader of Shaad Collie and the VIPs, local live band here in Nassau. I'm also the CEO of Island Boy Records and Sky High Production Studios, if you guys didn't know. Uh, that's a little bit about myself would be, I started, music at a very young age. I think my first instrument would have been like the recorder or something. I attended school in Bimini for the most part. I spent most of my years in Bimini. Then I traveled back here to Nassau in 2005, where I went to Aquinas College. I did music there. I was a part of a phenomenal marching band. And then I went to CV Bethel, where I further learned more about music with Miss T as my mentor.
Thank you for that introduction. I think most of us who would have attended school, and doing music, you would have had to practice on the recorder, because I remember practicing on the recorder. I don't remember most of the musical notes, but I think I have a little something left over. But can we talk about, thank you for that introduction. And can we talk about Bahamian independence and preserving the music culture?
Well, Bahamian independence is one of my favorite times of year. Well, I would say this year would probably be kind of rough for my fellow musicians in the secular world because, they really weren't putting any Bahamian artists on the independent show. Now, I see them trying to, do one or two things to try fix the problem, so forth, so on. But my thing is independence, Bahamian independence, that's something special to us. And I feel as if, we 48 this year? We 48 this year, and I feel like we should party, because 48 is something special. And like this, the first or second year of independence, where we just trying to figure things out. We know what is what. And as a Bahamian and as a Bahamian musician, it kind of hurts, I support what they're doing, so forth and so on. But, we got legends who should, be on the stage, like, D-Mark, Chino D, KB, Iristar, countless names, But this time of year should really be, this is a time of the year musicians really look forward for,
Mr. Collie, I want to thank you for sharing that. So we're going to get into that. We're going to get into talk about all of those things. But I want to do a brief overview of our topic today that we're going to focus on in this session. And so Bahamian independence, before we get into that talk, is a day is celebrated on July 10th. The Bahamas was officially declared independent on the 10th of July, 1973, after gaining independence from Great Britain, which ended 325 years of British rule. So when we look at Bahamian music culture, according to Smithsonian Folkways, Bahamian secular music in the Bahamas is referred to as Gombe music, which was derived from the Gambian word Gombe, which means large drum. Another aspect of Bahamian music culture is rape and scrape. The Smithsonian Folkways says that rake and scrape, bands hail back as back from the 1800s, when Africans who were brought to the Bahamas looked to make music on whatever was available to them, such as a carpenter's saw, pork barrels, or goat or sheep skins to make drums. The Smithsonian Folkway says that rake and scrape bands heavily relied on the goat skin drum to create a rhythmic bass. Another aspect of Bahamian music culture is the inclusion of the guitar. According to Smithsonian Folkways, the Bahamas boasts of some of the best guitarists in the world, many of whom were self-taught. Such guitarists include Joseph Spence, a well-known Bahamian artist who incorporated a finger-picking style. If we look at the music landscape today, we understand that Bahamian music has also been influenced by our Caribbean neighbors that include a mixture of reggae, soca, and salsa undertones. So with that, we'll begin our talk today. Now, I know you would have talked a little bit about your background. So can you tell us about your band, Shaad Collie and the VIPs? How and when did you establish your band?
Well, Shaad Collie and the VIPs, we came about late 2016, right after I say Hurricane Matthew. We got together. I was a part of a previous band, and things didn't work out as we wanted. So the band ended up splitting up. So I formed Shaad Collie and the VIPs, and I really got the name from my grandfather because my grandfather was a musician. His name is Al Collie, and he had a band called Al Collie and the VIPs, and I just carrying on the family name. But over the years, we had people come and go. But right now, the main members of the band, we have two artists, one Sean and Bloody, who sings with the band. I myself play either bass guitar or lead guitar. G Mark is on drums. Hachi is on trumpet. D France plays guitar. John Evans is our engineer. Can't forget the engineer. And it really is great to be working with such fellow musicians who've been in the game for so long. We learn a lot from each other, and which I love. And we are not just a band; we are more like a family.
Awesome, good stuff. Just want to look at the comments. So James is saying big ups to Shaad Collie and Shaad Collie and the VIPs. Thank you, James, for listening in today. And so, let's get into another point. Bahamian music culture. What is your view of Bahamian music culture in the Bahamas? What is your view of the promotion of Bahamian music culture in the Bahamas?
Well, Bahamian music culture in the Bahamas, as I see it now, a lot of artists are doing their part, I should say. They're making music. They are trying to make the music better, to try to get the music, out of the country. Playing, on an international standpoint, which is good, and I respect that because each and every artist, musician, they have their own way of doing things and trying to reach out to people, And as a musician, we just try our best, to feed the people music. And also what I've noticed with the Bahamian music and culture is that a lot of younger people are getting into it, and that is a plus. If that's a plus on my end.
Awesome. I think we're doing a good job at promoting Bahamian music culture. As far as you say, the Bahamian artists, they're doing their part to promote the music culture.
Can you repeat that?
You said that Bahamian artists, you think that Bahamian artists are doing their part to promote Bahamian music culture?
Yeah, yes, I do. They're trying their best. You know what I mean? We don't have the biggest support from like the government, you know, so everybody really has to try do it for themselves. You know, it's really rough being a musician. Trust me when I tell you, it's really rough.
Yeah, so you think that there are challenges in being a musician?
There are some challenges, you know, because like right now it's kind of hard for most bands to work. My band is blessed right now to be able to work on various days through the week, but you know it's hard to get into the hotels, and it's hard to get a job because you know the curfew and the quarantine and COVID-19. You know it's really hard on on most musicians because we're not getting the recognition and what we need at this point because you know bills still have to get paid regardless, man. You know, I can't go to BC and tell them, man, I'm playing nowhere this week. Just give me till next month. You know, and some people, that's all we do.
Yeah, that's an important point that you made in terms of the impact of the protocols that we have to follow. Sometimes some of your gigs may be at different times, and so there are challenges and the impact of the protocols that we have to observe at this time. And so let's get into another point. Um, Promotion again. How do you think Bahamians can promote Bahamian culture? I know that you said as an artist, you have Bahamian music artists who, try to do their best to promote the music culture. But how do you think Bahamians can promote Bahamian music culture? And do you think that it's a dying art form?
Well, at one point in time, I did think that, you know, it was a dying artifact, but now that I see more young people getting involved, uh, it's a strong chance. Everything right now is basically digital. Everything is really basically digital, and we could do everything over the internet. I'd encourage people to, buy Bohemian music, you know, when artists put them on various platforms like iTunes, Spotify. Everyone have either an iPhone or a Android phone. You know, we would go buy Drake's new song or someone like that, but our own where like something with my dad always would tell me, us as Bahamians, we have to learn how to keep the money in the country. You understand? Because we can't just keep shipping it out, exporting the money. We have to learn how to support one another, and once we get that down, then there will be no stopping Bahamian music.
Yeah, I want to thank you for sharing that. And when you think about other culture and other cultures and other countries and how they promote their music and how how those citizens, they promote their culture and promote their music, I think we do have some ways to go. So James is saying he concurs with you as it pertains to the point that we would have spoke about previously. So he says the pandemic and the lack of events have slowed things down for a lot of local entertainers and bands. And he says that he can't wait until things are normalized again in terms of regattas and homecomings to see bands being featured again. And so thank you again for sharing, James. And so let's talk about Bahamian independence. What are your views on this year's Bahamian Independence Day celebration and the alleged complaints that many persons have shared their grievances of Bahamian artists being excluded, allegedly being excluded from the celebration? What are your thoughts?
Well, my thoughts are is that it's a complete slap in the face because, like they say, if something ain't right, it ain't right. And us as Bahamians should be supporting Bahamians because, like, independence, there's a time where bands looking to play, man, looking to, represent our country for what it is, for independence, because that's what we do. At the end of the day, we are musicians and we are Bahamian musicians. We are Bahamian artists. So why not have these Bahamian artists, Bahamian musicians on the Independence Day big stage? I mean, it's just not fair in my eyes because I don't have nothing against the gospel thing they doing, but my thing is they could have shared it amongst gospel and secular music.
So it's alleged that this year's celebration is more focused toward more gospel.
Yes, more gospel artists. I think I can't remember what's the name, what they named it this year, but
It's
yeah,
Revive Us Again, right?
right. I mean, I don't think it really that serious because we doing what we have to do through the pandemic, through the quarantine. I mean, you have one or two people out there who probably uh, not obeying the rules, but for the most part, us as Bahamians, we trying. We trying to get this place open back up so musicians could work. And I know it's gonna be another hard thing to do because like probably to get certain jobs now as a musician in the Bahamas, we probably would have to be vaccinated. And that's a whole nother topic.
Well, that's definitely a whole nother topic because at this moment we have the choice. You have a choice to decide whether or not you want to do it or whether you don't want to do it. But I don't think your choice should prevent you from being able to work. So that is a bit extreme. That's a bit, and that's a whole nother topic.
Right, but like you said, like what you said, it should not prevent me from work. But I'm not gonna say a name, but I had a client come to me and said, "Man, your bond vaccinated. If the bond vaccinated, y'all could start tomorrow. Y'all could play it forever." You see, they saying, and I was like, "Wow."
Wow, that's interesting. And so it seems as though it's more or less entertainers, are you having to decide or more or less being pushed into getting the job?
Right.
Yeah. So that definitely is a topic all into itself, all into itself. So promotion, again, how do you think you promote Bohemian culture with your music?
Well, what we try to do in the band and in the studio when we making music, we try to grasp whole of not just the younger generation, but that old school flavor too. So we give you a mixture of young and old. Well, we hit you right in the middle, right where everything uh evens out, and we give you our best, man. That's my views on it. Many other bands which are, they trying very hard, if COVID ain't coming to shut you down or so forth. But you know, we as musicians, especially in Shaad Collie and the VIPs, we just strive for excellence. And we do take criticism, and we work on our craft the best way we do. But you know, how would I put it? Um, we just try our best, man. And from what I feel from the crowd and the people's response, everyone loving it.
Awesome, awesome. And so as it pertains to the theme of this year's celebration, Revive Us Again, James is saying the theme is Revive Us Again. However, the theme could be brought and expanded, not only from a spiritual standpoint, but also a revival or a return of the Bahamian culture renaissance. It could have been a revival of all things Bahamian. It's good to see that some bands and gigs will still be going on during this Independence weekend, although the local entertainers, for the most part, won't be featured on the stage. You have any comments on that comment?
I mean, I agree with him. You know, I agree with him. But my thing is like he said, they could have said revival for everything Bohemian. I really like that. I really like what he said. I really like that. And it makes sense, because you could probably do a gospel hour or 2 hours or so. I mean, all we as musicians, we know how the stage thing run. Everyone has their time slots, so forth, so on. They probably gotta do an hour, do a gospel, but at the end of the day, and if you look at the reality of things, people want party, man. See, they say people want to have a good time. We've been locked up, you know, for the most part, almost 2 years. People really want to get out and love themselves.
So you saying well, the thing is that I understand what you're saying. You're saying that Bohemians want a party, but independence is also a celebration as well.
But we could celebrate us being Bohemians and party at the same time. Because let's not forget, after the fort, what we usually have, all the dogs and the police and the bike show and all that. After that, we go right down, walk right down the hill, and we have a big John Canoe rush up. Can't forget that. John Canoe like a party itself.
And considering the times that we in, I think that the celebration is needed, a celebration of culture, a celebration of our independence. And I think that is needed considering the times that we're in our country. So not so less a party, but celebration, independence
Yeah, man,
celebration.
celebrate. Everyone should respect and appreciate the fact that we're Bahamian and we celebrating our independence.
Thank you. And so let's talk about advice. Do you have any advice for young women and young men who may aspire to want to become Bahamian artists? I know you would have talked about the challenges, especially now in the observance of COVID-19 protocols. But what advice would you give to younger persons who may want to continue on in Bahamian music culture?
Well, the best advice I could give any young male or female looking to be an artist is just get started, man. The hardest part of doing anything is starting. Once you get started, man, shoot, you could link me. I could work with you. You have other people who could work with you. The main thing is just getting started. Because, like for me, for example, I'd be sitting down in the studio. I might even have a session, and I working with someone. And then right when that session is over, someone might come to me and say, "Man, I got something. I got something." And then when they sing it or when they sing it to me, I'd be like, "Bro, that's amazing. Like how you come up with that, and the person would be like, man, I was just getting off or something like that. But it's you just gotta start. People out there have so much gifts and so much talents, but they just don't know when and where and how to start. But the main thing, I just build up the courage, build up the confidence, and just go for it.
I want to thank you for sharing that. And I also want to thank you for sharing your openness to support other persons who may be interested in pursuing a career in Bohemian music. So I want to thank you for sharing that and that you're open to
No
sharing
problem.
your craft. And so, do you have any additional comments that you would like to add as it pertains to anything that we would have talked about?
Well, I just would like to say, I'm a proud Bahamian, first of all. I'd like to say that. And to any artist, musician, anyone out there, just stay positive, stay humble. That's the main thing. Humbleness is key, you know, and just be positive, man.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing your pride, your Bahamian pride, and also the fact that you are a promoter. You're a promoter of Bahamian culture through your art form, and you're proud, right?
Right? Because, uh, recently we've been doing a series. We took this month off, but me and my father, we sponsor 92.5 and we talk with artists every week and we give them awards. The last award I think we gave was to Elon Moxie. So we still here trying to, keep the Bahamian thing alive. We trying our best, giving letting people know we still out here looking out for Bahamian artists.
Awesome. And as the show today, the session today is dedicated to Bohemian independence, July 10th, which is tomorrow.
Right.
Um, any words as it pertains to Bohemian independence?
Well, I just would like to say happy independence, Bahamas, due to the fact of whatever they decide to do tomorrow, I carry no feelings towards anything or anyone. I just would like everyone to have a good Independence Day tomorrow. Be safe and be encouraged.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing. And thank you for all that you do for continuing to preserve the culture. We need young persons to be motivated. We need young persons to be interested in preserving the culture because this is what we have. This is all we have. And so I want to thank you for being a part of that and preserving the art and preserving music culture. So do you have a page you would like to share?
Well, yes, there are actually a few pages. You can find me on Shaad Collie and the VIPs. That's the band page on Facebook. Island Boy Records. That's the studio page. Sky High Production Studios. That's also the partner studio page and Island Boy Beverages because here at Island Boy, I forgot to announce we sell water and there will be other products coming very soon. But we have the highest alkaline water right here in the Bahamas.
You have Independence Water? You selling any Independence Water?
I try it. I try it.
So I want to thank you for sharing today, joining us in the session. I know you're busy and you have a performance, so I want to thank you for taking the time out and to join us today and talk about Bahamian music culture and preserving it. Thank you so much for joining us today.
I appreciate it, man. And if anybody wants to catch the band today, we'll be by a taste in Nassau, downtown, on the side of Tourism Police Station.
And you said you played bass,
And
guitar,
guitar.
which lead and bass.
Yes, ma'am.
You have your guitar there too. You play us a note. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Can you play us a note?
I gotta see.
Sorry, I mute myself, but thank you, Shaad, for joining us today. I would like to thank our viewers for listening in. I would like to thank our guests, Shaad Collie and the VIPs, or Shaad Collie of Shaad Collie and the VIPs. I would like to thank our viewers. Like our page for future notifications of our coming talks. Comment under our videos. Let us know your thoughts. What do you want us to talk about? You can subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter and on Instagram. And so with that, we will end our session today. And I will say goodbye. And oh, happy independence.
Happy Independence, Bahamas.
Happy independence. Thank you so much.